Look at this. This is a great article. The right to alter or abolish the government. Government is the mere agent of the people. What are we looking at here? We're looking at the issue of the principle of agency. The principle of agency. Did you learn this in school? The principle of agency? You see, that's what makes us a constitutional republic, a representative form of government, the principle of agency. Great article out there by Gerald Thompson. He's an attorney. He wrote this. I've quoted it over the years. The right to alter or abolish the government. Government is the mere agent of the people. According to Joseph Story, writing in his commentaries on the Constitution of the United States, 1833, the framers had a protracted discussion during and immediately following the Constitutional Convention about whether the United States government was founded on the principle of a compact or not. In fact, Story devoted a lengthy chapter to just this question. The question is not an easy one because, as Story pointed out, there are several kinds of civil compacts. Story explained whether the Constitution can be explained as some other form of a compact. In the time he was writing, 1833, the winds of Southern secession were already blowing. So he attempted to head off the twin evils of states leaving the Union and individuals declaring themselves not bound by the Constitution, both of which he saw as illogical outcomes if the Constitution was a form of compact. For a variety of reasons, he rejected the idea of the Constitution as any kind of compact. Further, Story claimed that the American founders rejected that idea as well. According to Story, the framers did not want to base the Constitution on compact principles because it would make it seem like the states and or the federal government were the equals of the people. The framers viewed the people as superior to all governments formed by them, state and federal, and all such governments as inferior. And how could you have an agreement between unequal parties? Plus, following the rationale of the Vindictia, viewing the Constitution as compact would limit the ability of the people to alter or abolish their government to only cases of oppression. And the framers didn't want that limitation. They needed a broader principle, one that treated the people, listen now, one that treated the people as superior to their rulers and did not regard the government as equal. One that bound the states as much as the federal government, a principle by which the people did not serve civil rulers, but civil rulers serve the people. That principle was agency, with the people as the principal and civil rulers as their agents. Under the principle of agency, the government was inferior to the people, not equal, and the people were its masters. Under agency, both states and federal government were subject to the people and unable to escape from the constitutional scheme imposed on them by the people. But most importantly, if civil authority resides originally in the people and civil rulers are merely their agents, then the people have the inherent right to remove any civil ruler and to alter or abolish their form of government. By the way, that's in our Declaration of Independence. As much as any principal can discharge an agent at will. Joseph Story, in his chapter on whether the Constitution is a compact, provided an excerpt from the constitutional debates in North Carolina as indicative of this view. Quote, unless the rulers are guilty of oppression, the people, on the principles of a compact, have no right to new model their government. This is held to be the principle of some monarchical governments in Europe. Our government is founded on much nobler principles. The people are known with certainty to have originated it themselves. Good. Let's see that? We originated the government. So therefore, obviously, we can change things, right? We originated. We're the ones that gave birth to it. He goes on to write, Story. Those in power are their servants and agents, and the people, without their consent, may new model the government. Whether they think proper, not merely because it is oppressively exercised, but because they think another form will be more conducive to their welfare, end quote. In the early years of the Republic, these principles were well known and understood. In a republic, they, the people, assembled an administrator, administrated it and assembled administrator, their representatives as agents. That's found in Federalist Papers number 14. And some of you say, well, what are the Federalist Papers? Many of you know. These were papers written by some of our founders to describe the new documents to the American people. And they were written so lay people could understand them, just as was the Declaration of Independence and most assuredly the U.S. Constitution. And these Federalist Papers describing the U.S. Constitution, these Federalist Papers were printed in the newspapers as a series. And Americans, the average occupation then being a farmer, would readily wait for the next paper to come out further describing this new document known as the U.S. Constitution. So that's what the Federalist Papers, number 14, stated. Number 46 states the federal and state governments are, in fact, but different agents and trustees of the people. Therefore, the writer writes, if there should happen to be an irreconcilable variance between the two, that which has the superior obligation and validity ought, of course, to be preferred, or in other words, the Constitution ought to be preferred to the statute, the intention of the people to intention of their agents. That's also Federalist number 78. So again, the intention of the people to the intention of their agents. So this would be like you having a lawyer. Can you fire your lawyer? Yep. Can you fire your insurance agent? Yep. He's a representative. He's an agent for you. We, the people, elect agents in this idea of the principle of agency. We elect them. We are their masters. They work for us. We are their bosses. They serve us, not the other way around. And because we created them and they serve us, we can alter our government if necessary. Now, this is not to be done for trivial matters, as was described in the U.S. Declaration of Independence. But after a long train of abuses, the Declaration of Independence, which again was the underpinning for the Constitution, says that the people have a right to alter or abolish their government and to put it back under a constitutional frame of government. So wrap your head around this, the writer says, if you will. It wasn't good enough for the framers that the people should be able to alter or abolish their government only in the case of oppression. But the people needed to be able to alter or abolish the government whenever they thought it might be beneficial. Talk about pushing the envelope. And nobody in 1787 thought the framers were extremists, radicals, or terrorists because of this. They were just stating the obvious. Looky here. Amendment 9 of the Constitution of the United States. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Retained by the people, folks. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution or prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. That's the 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. It's not in the right of the federal government by the Constitution. It belongs to the states and the respective people thereof. That's the 10th Amendment. I'm convinced more readily now than ever before, and I've been convinced of this matter for a long time, that one of the only things that will save America will be the American people in the states understanding the power of the 10th Amendment. Not the twisting of the 10th Amendment, not the rewriting of the 10th Amendment, not the ignoring of the 10th Amendment by black-robed thugs at the federal level, but by the actual clear meaning of the 10th Amendment and its text. One of the only salvations for the states and the respective people thereof who want to live free is the 10th Amendment of the United States. And unless the American people once again understand the Constitution and the 10th Amendment of the United States and elect governors, state legislators, attorney generals, secretaries of state, and sheriffs throughout this nation that once again have a commitment to the 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution that will tell the federal government to go pound sand and, if necessary, actually alter or abolish the central government in Washington, D.C., and if necessary in your own state capital, then we shall find ourselves the subject of tyranny. And by all means, we will not be the ones that are being the terrorist, the domestic terrorist, or the extremist, as the author stated. We will actually be the ones following the rule of law. Look at this, Declaration of Independence. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Where do they get their powers from, folks? The consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government. Go to the bottom. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. End quote. This is the Declaration of Independence. My friends, have we ever been here before as a nation? Not to this degree. We are now rolling over into despotism. This is the view or the idea that we are in charge, but we really are not. It has also been called soft despotism. The view that the American people are in charge. You go to the polls and you vote and you supposedly elect your elected officials at the local, state, and federal level, and you're led to believe that you're making the choice of your elected officials, that we, the people, are really the ones behind this government. Because after all, it's a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And we chose these agents to represent us, right? Wrong. That's the lie of soft despotism. Or despotism. The idea that it's the mirage, it's the delusion that you're in charge, we the people, that we voted these people in. This is more true now than ever before because we know due to voter fraud, we did not vote these people in. Many of them that hold office today, we did not vote them into office. And yet, we're told just wait till the next election. As one elected official said the other night and got booed in Alabama, don't look back, look at 2022, look at 2024. Oh yeah, that's where your hope lies. The next rigged election. Really? Again, the mirage, the delusion, the lie, the propaganda. You pick your leaders. You can win next time. Better luck next time. No, you're not picking your leaders in many cases. This is being controlled largely by special interest, lots and lots of corporate money and special interest. And in some cases, we've now seen outright fraud, including attacks on our election system by agents both foreign and domestic. This is despotism. And the U.S. Declaration of Independence, which is the underpinning for our U.S. Constitution, among our other founding documents, tells us we don't have to take this. We do not have to be abused. We do not have to be bullied. We do not have to be threatened. We do not have to have people in the central government create and generate false charges, lie to judges, wiretap us, surveil us, manufacture evidence, withhold evidence that clears us of any wrongdoing, and then arrest us without just cause, throw us into prison without just cause, and steal our property, our way of life. We don't have to tolerate it, folks. We do not have to tolerate it. The laws have already been written that say that we are in charge. And at the state level, we certainly are, because of the 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, that clearly again states that the powers the federal government has are limited and expressed, and the unlisted powers belong to the states and respective people thereof, not the federal government, unless it is directly given to them. One of the only ways for this nation to survive with a few free states, I believe, is if the few free states that are left, meaning generally states in the South, begin to elect people, and if not elect, already elected people, stand up and reassert our God-given rights under the laws of the divine, the laws of nature, nature's God, and as pointed out and empowered in the words of the U.S. Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. We do not have to let them kick us in the teeth over and over, steal our liberties, steal our freedoms, and enslave us. Certainly enslave us to masters in Washington, D.C., and certainly not to masters in Beijing. But do the American people even know the laws of our land, the supreme law of the land, for which even the United States Supreme Court at one time recognized that the supreme law of the land was the U.S. Constitution. But today, they cite foreign law. Today, the courts make it up out of thin air through legal positivism, moral relativism applied to the law. Just needing one crackpot judge in a black robe to make one stupid decision, which another group of judges can make their ruling based upon that stupid decision. And then you have the case law theory of Christopher Columbus Langdale, birthed in around the 1920s. Just give us one stupid ruling and we'll keep piling up stupid ruling after stupid rulings until we say this is now the law. Are the American people going to go quietly into the night of tyranny? If they do, they have no one to blame but themselves. We have everything we need on our side to remain a free people. We have the rule of law. We have our organic documents. And why should we surrender? Why? When we are on the side of the angels. This is, again, a Herculean situation we find ourselves in. But we can do it because, after all, we are Americans. Winston Churchill once said, "If you will not fight for right when you can easily win, you may come to the moment where you have to fight with all the odds against you and only a small chance of survival. There may even be a worse case. You may have to fight when there is no hope of victory because it is better to perish than to live as slaves." My friends, we are on the verge of being slaves. The trap has been set with the forced COVID death shot, masking, COVID passports, the inability to travel, keep your job, go into a grocery store, assemble with friends, go to a wedding, invite your family into your home during the holidays. The stage is set for us to become slaves, and it is better to perish than to live as slaves. If you appreciate this broadcast, and by the way, I don't use a teleprompter. I bet you boys at Fox News could not do that without a teleprompter. And you know why? Because it's not here in their heart. It's time we stop listening to these empty suits that don't know squat unless their producer puts it in their teleprompter. It's time we start following Americans that speak from the gut and know it in their heart. And that includes these useless, spiny, feminized pansies we call politicians and the pansies in the pulpit. Stop listening to these feminized fools. We need more John Waynes. It is time the American people start feasting on one John Wayne movie after another, whether it's the Green Berets or any of the other John Wayne movies. It's time to remind the Americans what it means to be a man. We need masculine men, and we need feminine women. Masculinity is a great thing. Femininity is a great thing. And when we live out our God-given roles as men and women, we have a complementary system that makes for a great American society. But we need more men. We need less pansies.